You can select different scenes, control individual lights if you want to, and also if you don't want color, you can just go to white. Hi guys, it's Nico, and after my last video about controlling WiZ smart bulbs and dimming them up and down, a lot of people have asked about obviously the second thing, which is going to be RGBW. Well, I've already bought a few GU10s, again from WiZ Connect, so I'll be able to show you how to integrate RGB commands. Let's get into it. First thing you're going to need is going to be obviously a lot of logic. Now, I said a lot of logic. This is a page full of logic. You shouldn't get scared away. It's actually not that complicated, but there's only 3 lights that I'm controlling in here. So you can see it's not that taxing, but there is quite a few things to consider. Now, as a baseline, I'm again using this Sean's website to be able to generate the command and kind of look at the syntax. But the most important one we need is obviously the RGB values, and you'll be able to see that in here, this is the command that is being sent. So we'll be able to also send it from the Loxone mini server, but with a little bit of adjustment, where red, green, and blue are going to be values that will obviously be given in. Right, so let's go in here and have a little look. So first thing is I have 3 GU10s connected in. I have left, middle, and right. And for the color, I want to control it separately. For the dim to warm or color temperature and dimming, just for white obviously, I'm controlling all 3 at the same time. I'll explain this in a bit. Now, when it comes to color, if you double click on the lighting controller, you'll be able to see that under lighting circuits, I've set the first 3 circuits to RGB. And once they're set to RGB, I'm grabbing the value and I'm forwarding it to the AI input of an RGB lighting controller. Now, AI input is basically splitting red, green, and blue into separate outputs. And these outputs are unfortunately 0 to 10. So because of that, I'm using something like a scaler, and the scaler is then setting that 10 to 255, because again, our WiZ lights are looking for a value between 0 to 255. Now, that's why I have a scaler for each color. This is red, green, blue. You'll be able to see that if I have something in here, it's going to output roughly that value. Now, all of these are then going into a status block, and the status block is basically saying that if red is not 0, blue is not 0, green is not 0, forward that command. And here is the command that I've created. I've essentially grabbed exactly the same thing, but I've replaced these with active values. Now in here, I'm basically saying input 1 for the status block and set it in here. So red, green, blue. And that's exactly what this is doing. It's grabbing the scaled value and it's putting it in 1, 2, or 3 as position. Then as an output, I'm grabbing the text output and I'm sending it directly to that light. And again, as in the previous video, I'm just sending a V this time around because I'm technically grabbing the whole text string and I'm forwarding it direct to the light itself. Now, if you go and look at the periphery, again, nothing has changed. Again, I'm sending UDP commands to exactly the same port. Basically, this time around, I'm just saying forward the whole thing, the whole string that I've created, because in here is where I need to compile, obviously, my string. Then I have a little bit of additional one on the top, and I'm saying that if all the colors are 0, and also there's no dimming or just white colors, set it to 0 or set the output to nothing. So I send this command then, which basically says turned off. Now, that's all we really need for these things. We just repeat it 3 times and that's it. The command is being sent. Again, I'll show more and I'll share some links down in the description so you can see them. But then if we look at the dim to warm, let me explain what I did in here. Now with the dim to warm, it looks like so. If I come in here to custom / warm white, you'll be able to see that there's a different command being generated. Temperature and dimming is what is being set. And you'll be able to see that I can adjust it from 2200, which is warmest, to 6200, which is the coolest color I have. I think on mine, actually on the back of it, it says 6500 as the coolest white. So again, in here, I have output number 4, which is just 0 to 100%, just brightness. And now I'm giving the brightness value into a different status block, and I'm also doing a brightness to a scalar. Basically in here I'm saying that if you see 0, set it to the warmest color. If you see 6500, set it to the coolest color or at 100%. I've taken out the idea from something else, and basically for that other system, whenever you go down in brightness, you also go down in color temperature, which means whenever you want it to be very dim, you most likely also want it to be a warmer color. Whenever you want it to be very bright, you also want it to have it as a very bright color. There's different ways to configure this, but I found this one to be the most intuitive and actually gives you a very nice result. So if you look in here in the function block, we have our combination or our output. This is how I've set it up. Again, I'll put this in the description, but you see that the temperature is value 2 and the dimming is value 1. The temperature is getting scaled exactly the same way between 0 to 100 and 200 to 6500. And I'm outputting this, as you see, as references directly to that same command. I could be using the same command, I could be using a different command, but again, it's not that important. And the only thing that I have in addition is you'll be able to see that in every single block, there's this 1 and 0 state. Basically, I'm saying that if there's no color, and also there's no dimming, send the off command, again, exactly the same. So this is the one, exactly the same. Send the off command and turn the lights off. So in all cases, whenever I press off, when there's no dimming, no color, the light should go off. If there is dimming or if there is color, they should obviously stay on. Now, every function block from there on is not being displayed in the app because you don't want to convolute the user interface. If you go to the app afterwards, you'll be able to see your familiar controls. You have your lighting scenes. Here's a conservatory. You'll be able to obviously click and change them. I can go to more. I can adjust the wheel in real time. I can adjust the brightness, dim them up, dim them down. And basically the last setting is going to overwrite everything. And if I press off, everything's going to go off. Now that's pretty much it, to be fair. It's a fairly straightforward, fairly easy thing to do. This is the light I'm using, but again, it's most likely going to work very similar fashion with things like Shelly's and other lights on the market where you need to send it an RGB value. You basically need to translate it to something that the command is looking for or something that the other device can understand. And once you send it, there you go, so it changes in real time. Watch the B-roll, you'll be able to see some moments where it's pretty much instant, but maybe there's a slight delay from one light to the next. Obviously, I would assume that the more lights you have, the bigger chance of things not kind of going the way you want it is. But again, if you're quickly retrofitting, something like this, I think comes in £30 for 4 or something similar. So experiment, play around, see how it works. Obviously, it's not going to be solid all the time, but for the ones that wanted it, that was the video for you. If you have any questions or have any suggestions, put them down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.